What's good, Flow State Jedis? Today I'm talking all about how to be a better leader in terms of handling your employees' conflicts in a leadership position. This was a question that I was asked. So, first of all, let's break down what leadership really represents, okay? Leadership is there to serve and protect. You want to understand that the devil's only job is distraction. So you as a leader, you have to get people focused on the task at hand and what they are doing. If they have conflicts or emotional things that are coming up, that's probably things that they need to work out in themselves. Like, what would it actually take for them to be successful where they're working, right? Oftentimes, just lowering your level of stress can be very, very impactful. So oftentimes I'll use something called the 8-8-8 rule, okay? So that means 8 hours of work, 8 hours of rest, and 8 hours of sleep. If you can't manage that and you go a little bit like less work or more rest or less sleep, it kind of messes up the cycle. When you are in a leadership position, you want to help people succeed on their own terms, okay? And to avoid conflict, you got to understand what is their style of learning, okay? Because oftentimes it's about knowing your employees, right? Like, what really motivates them, what puts them into that driver's seat, what makes them have that sense of acceleration, right? That ambition. Like, what do they really want at this company, right? You can't teach a fish to climb a tree, okay? So you got to know, like the Avengers, what is everybody's roles in this company? Are they playing their role accurately? And have fun events or things planned out for them, right? Like game night, stretch breaks. Everyone in the office gets up, you all start stretching together, right? Make this kind of more so a team effort to get everybody on this kind of workplace environment that's causing less stress. In terms of conflict, you've got to ask yourself 3 things, okay? That's what Socrates said. Is it true? Is it good? And is it useful? What those 2 people are arguing about. Is it good? Does it have a good intention or malintention, right? And is it useful? Is them arguing actually gonna impact the company in some way or make the workforce better, right? Like, you got to really look at it more systematically, because people tend to follow systems, right? And we need to trust people as well as systems, okay? So in order to advance your work culture, I would get you to say the sentence out loud. I work with people that blank, okay? I work with people that, wake up early in the morning. I work with people who are excited about flow state. I work with people who push the boundaries or set their own rules. I work with people who move the needle forward. I work with optimizers. I work with maximizers, right? So start to decide, like, what is it in your company work culture that is actually what you stand for, your values. This will make it much easier to know and understand both sides of the argument, because they're standing on the foundation of the company or where they're working. So are they representing themselves to pick their battles wisely in those conflicts? As a leader, it is your job to give people structure. So I would highly recommend that you put up rules like on a board, okay? No backbiting or bickering, no gossiping, okay? No, like certain rules, like just guidelines for them to follow, and get all your employees to sign that, okay? Next to it, all the signatures down, put it up on the wall, laminate it, put it up on the wall, so everyone can now see, okay, this is not allowed. It would also be a good idea not to just take the bad qualities of what not to do, but actually transfer it into qualities for them, things that they will do. So if it's no backbiting, it's more so praising others around the company. Like, if someone does a good job, make sure the other workers acknowledge what they're doing, right? And it's not this weird dynamic. Lao Tzu said that a great leader is the one where the people say that, oh, we did it ourselves, where the leader is in the background. Your leadership is a reflection of your lifestyle. There's 5 levels of leadership by John Maxwell. The first kind of leadership is, I have to do this, right? It feels like a push. Okay, I have to follow this thing. I gotta get paid. This is my job, right? Second level of leadership is that they like you, okay? You're a likable person, you get along with them. The third level is where the leader is delivering on what they promise, and they're doing it. They're proactive, right? The fourth level is you help them to grow. And the final level of leadership is who you are, your character, okay? Who you are and what you represent. So if you represent loyalty and you have disloyal employees, it's not going to cut it, is it? And even in the firing process, you've got to be a leader, right? In that process, you've got to be like, listen, I know some way better mentors that are more suited for what you are trying to do, but this is not going to work for my company because I need this XYZ. There's a guy named Frederick Taylor that came along and he introduced something called the scientific management, okay? So he actually tried to focus more on optimization, whereas earlier they would just think that, oh, you were just born a leader, right? So behavioral interviewing is really good because then you can get to know your employee's personality, right? If time and money wasn't an option, you know, what would you do with your time? If you had to take a vacation from this job, where would you go? If you had 2 teleportation devices, where would you place them and why? What was your best day at work and your worst day at work? These questions are there for you to discern their character, what kind of people they are, right? And that's really going to be important. Now, good leaders also smile less. You've got to understand that. Sometimes smiling too much, your employees think, oh, you're not this nice and friendly guy, but they're not gonna have that respect for you. You get what I'm saying? So smiling too much is not a good thing. It's a sign of submission. You still want to use stillness. You don't want to be like a frantic leader, right? Moving here, doing that. Like, you have to have an ease and a grace about you on what you're doing, because you are the top of the chain. You're not trying to go behind them and push them and be like, go, go, go. You're stepping in front of them. So they're following your lead and you're going, let's go. So you're showing up greater, okay? For them to then be subordinate to you. You know, they need to feel like this isn't a weird dynamic. So have like a day where you just praise each other, like an employee day where you praise each other. Have a day where it's a potluck where people bring in food. You know, have a game night. Maybe you invite someone to teach your company meditation or mindfulness training, mindfulness-based stress relief techniques, okay? A leader balances intuition, emotion, and logic very well, okay? Some of the greatest leaders, they have the greatest stories to tell. They're acting from the heart and not just the intellect. Praising your employees taps into the same part of the brain to them getting a raise or getting paid money, okay? The social reward and the monetary reward is in the same reward system. The dopamine is still the same, so they're gonna perform well if you praise them well. Now let's say you give them a really genuine good label and a compliment, and that's like giving them a big paycheck, right? They're just gonna be that much more motivated to show up because that feels good to be recognized, seen, heard, honored. In terms of the conflict, you want to have this level of empathy where you step into both people's takes on this, right? As a moderator, I do a lot of couples counseling sessions and things like this. As a moderator, you've got to hear both sides, okay? And then there's got to be a place where they meet in the middle. 2 different planets, 2 different astronauts visiting both planets. They got to come into the neutral space as they're floating around in space, meet, talk, and then go back to their own worlds. Try not to talk down to people as you're communicating. You don't want to coddle your employees, and you don't want to be too harsh with your employees. You got to find that flow state bridge in between. Somewhere in, it's like a firm authority. It's also someone that you respect and they're likable, right? It's like not too serious, not too playful. It's like they're on their zone. They're on their shit, right? Don't stereotype people and put them in categories when you're employing someone. Just because someone is a creative, it doesn't mean that they can't handle another task, like putting together a PowerPoint or something else, you know? So always like stretch the boundaries of people's innovation. Basically, once you're dealing with these arguments, you want to look at the company's long-term success. What are these people bringing? If they're Avengers and they have their superpowers, and this is why I recommend highly for all your employees to take the strengths quiz, the VIA character strengths quiz, okay? Because then you'll get to know what strengths are working with the other strengths, right? Is Iron Man teaming up with the Hulk? That's pretty cool, right? That's badass. That gives that company that lot more strength, right? In order to manage others, you've got to manage yourself. And you've got to make yourself feel capable and your employees to feel capable. You can do this, man. Creating a framework for any conflicts that they need to handle, you might want to refer them to somebody like a counselor or somebody, right? that can handle those conflicts. So you might need a separate department for conflict resolution. And even if there isn't one there, maybe even hiring a freelancer or outsourcing it might be a good call for this. Because as a leader, you want to focus on what you're good at, right? You want to delegate. You don't want to focus on these petty conflicts or like weird backbiting stuff that's going on, right? You want to show up and be responsible. So even when you're like getting rid of employees or like you have to talk to them in a certain way and like scold them a little bit, you're giving them an opportunity to grow. And that's always the mindset that you want to have, is like, I am focused on my growth. I'm not focused on, you know, what problems. And again, you've got to understand that people might have different problems, right? Don't just assume that people are unmotivated. They might have a problem at home. They might be going through a breakup. They might be, you know, really struggling with something else in their life that showed up. So keeping that in mind, we've got to understand, okay, how do these people function, right? If you notice one of your employees gets seasonal depression every time it's December, now you kind of know that they're going to go through a dip in that timeline. So is there something that you can do that can support them, right? Maybe give them more guidance or have them work with a consultant to figure it out during that timeline, right? So you kind of have to have this clear picture of like, oh, I can see where everything is as a leader, right? It's like puppet master, you're behind the strings. It's like you're doing all this stuff, but you're giving all the credit away. You're like, I'm the ninja, right? I'm the invisible one in the background making this thing work, but also people are looking at me and they're sensing my authenticity with how I show up, right? It's not about you, it's about the company, it's about them, right? Like for instance, my brand name used to be Coaching with Sum. Now it is Flow Zone Academy. Why did I do that? I got rid of my ego, man. Oh, this is all about me. I'm coaching, right? But now it's an academy. Now it's something that I'm sharing with people. And that's way more powerful because now you're standing on a concept, you're standing on an idea instead of standing on the fragile ego self, right? Trying to hold it all together. Oh, someone hacked that email, by the way, Coaching with Sutra. I think that's another sign for me to crush that old ego version of me. Let people bring their ideas to the table. Let people experiment and try new things. Don't keep this weird hierarchy dynamic. Don't be so loving and kind, and it's not like a friendship thing, right? You guys are there to work and succeed too. So don't coddle and like pamper each other either. Keep each other accountable, right? That's what employees need to be doing, is keeping each other accountable. If someone slips, it's like the whole company loses its productivity. Let a zebra be a zebra. You get what I mean? Like if someone is doing Photoshop in your company and doing the tech, that's what they're good at. Now, they deliver well, but maybe you have to push them a little bit to push that product out and give them the right, you know, time frames, and maybe they're not following your deadline or something like this, right? Is the work that they've done appropriate? Is that good work that they've done? Is it something that is pleasing to the eye? Is it something that adds to the company's brand value and integrity of the brand value? Right? I'm looking for result. I'm not looking at like all these little nitpicky details about their personal lives and like what they did in third grade, right? That is the job of somebody else. That is not the job of a leader to look after somebody else's, you know, thing like that. That's why we have like extra departments for mental well-being, and you know, people who are experts in that arena can come in, maybe give your guys a lecture on something, right? A lecture on productivity, a lecture on this. And now the company employees are getting excited about, hey, when's the next lecture, right? When are we gonna bring someone new in? Oh, I have a friend and he knows them, and they can bring them in, right? And it's creating this positive work environment. You know, Patagonia, the surf company, what they've done is they've given the employees the right to go and surf anytime as a break, right? To work for their company. So that's kind of really cool, right? Not every company is like that, obviously, but if you can be that cool company like that, that Sigma company, you know what I mean? It will be very, very cool of you to let people's talent shine in their unique ways, basically. Let people stay in their own lane, but then again, everybody's kind of synchronizing like clockwork, right? And now if you put together all the Avengers, you're like, whoa, that's a flow to be reckoned with, right? Let's get it. Upward Spiral Gang, hope you enjoyed this video. You know, have people rap battle it out. that could be a funny thing to do, right? Having people rap battle it out, or having like a poetry jam session where they're managing their conflict in some humorous way as well. You get what I'm saying? Like, really understanding these two different people, and having them meet at some differences and understandings and similarity. I mean, it's easier said than done, right? We all have our own personalizations and personal stories, but I think you just show up and do your best that you can, okay? And understand your values. Understand, I work with people that blank. I work with people that blank. Remember that. And, you know, start moving forward. Don't stereotype people. Don't typecast them, right? Just because they're nerdy and like this, don't put them in the tech department. Let them, you know, widen their range and horizon. Maybe they're in a junior position. Maybe they can jump higher based on their skill set, right? So I hope you enjoy this video, and I hope it's helpful to you, man. Have an incredible day. May the flow be with you, and stay legendary. Let's get it. Us.